We've only got a couple of chapters left of Ezra. Yeah. This one and next week. We're finishing Ezra. And then we've got some exciting places to go after that. Tonight's all about being in agreement or disagreement. Very fascinating, the message tonight. Remember, Ezra's come back to Jerusalem. Ezra, a loyal, obedient scribe and priest, returns all excited to the Jerusalem temple, expecting to rekindle a closer relationship with his Creator through sacrifice and praise, after never experiencing the proper anointed house of Yahuah because of Babylonian captivity. All that stuff, pomp and everything splendor that Solomon built for the last 100 years, the Jews had never experienced it because they'd been taken off into captivity. It was all destroyed. So Ezra's just arrived, but what he finds instead is total chaos, disarray, and a lack of agreement on the proper way to observe Yahuah's commands and instructions. Remember this, they won't come together and they won't agree. Ezra is in complete shock. No one will come together, no one will agree and be in one mind and be Torah obedient to gain a supernatural experience and relationship, instead of having their own man-made traditions and ways. Just like today, really. Remember, everything we're learning in Ezra is for us today. Yeah? It's the same mindset today. No one will come together and be in one mind. Read the commandments and do them. Let's get into chapter 9. After we finished all these things, remember last chapter, they returned and gave the gold and silver to the temple authorities. After all that happened, the leaders of the Israelites came to me, Ezra, and said, Ezra, the Israelites have not kept themselves separate from the other people living around us, nor have the priests and the Levites stayed away from the abominations done by the Canaanites, Hittites, Perizzites, Jebusites, Ammonites, Moabites, Egyptians, and Amorites, but are being influenced by the evil lifestyles. Does this ring a bell? Back from Moses' time and Joshua's time? All these people here, don't go near these people. The Israelites not only stayed away from them, they've actually married. The Israelites have even married the people living around us from the nations, which was forbidden by Moses. The Israelites are supposed to be set apart and special, but now they're intermixed with the other people living around them. The leaders and important officials of the Israelites have set a very bad example in this behaviour. So, Ezra is completely devastated. He's shocked. It's not just the people, but also the priests and the Levites that have refused to keep the foreigners who had moved into Judah during the exile, keep them at arm's length. And many Hebrew men have even married some of those foreign women. Then we get a list of 8 foreign peoples, the nations that supplied these women, all those nations up there. They supplied the women. The first thing we need to remember is that Yahuah's divine laws do not prohibit Hebrews from intermarrying with Gentiles. That's not illegal. In fact, we find several cases of it even among the patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. As long as they abandoned their idolatry, anybody was welcome to graft into Israel, as long as they turned away from their own idolatry and joined Israel. However, that said, Yahuah didn't want the Hebrews marrying into certain people groups or nations, and most of these were targeted because they were residents of Canaan, the people Yahuah called wicked and wanted removed from the land in order to give it to his people, Israel. This is back in Exodus. And if we look at the list here in verse 1, all those people that are up the top, and compare it with earlier lists of people groups, the Israelites were to avoid fraternizing with, In Exodus and Deuteronomy, we find the exact same familiar names of nations. Now, I didn't list all the scriptures that have those lists in them, but in Exodus and in Deuteronomy, it has all the same groups of nations. Do not go near them. Do not make peace treaties with them. Do not make friends with them. Certainly don't intermarry with them. The issue for Ezra was just how much of Yahuwah's laws could he reasonably bring the Jews back into, because they were so far away from it, considering how embedded they were in the ways of early Judaism in their everyday life and society. The pagan Gentiles had influenced the Jewish culture so much, and they were already so far from the behavioural standard of Yahuwah's word. Most Jews had little to no knowledge or experience with scripture-based laws, or living in a behaviour like their distant ancestors had lived. And the precise challenge that Ezra is faced with here in chapters 9 and 10 must be the most emotionally gut-wrenching one imaginable. Many of the marriages and resulting families that the Jews had formed over the past century were, in Yahuwah's eyes, illegitimate, because these marriages were between his people and foreign pagans. In fact, these marriages represented fundamental disobedience to Yahuwah, because they directly violated the law of Moses, in principle, letter, and in spirit. And Malachi, remember when we read Malachi? He made it clear that this was an abomination that could not stand if harmony with Yahuwah was to be restored. And remember, as we learned, it's not a racist thing. It wasn't because of the colour of their skin or anything. Don't marry those people because of it. No. It was because that every foreign nation had a chief deity and a bunch of other gods and goddesses as well. The idol and the nation were seen as inseparable. So the accusation is that Yahuwah's sanctuary, the temple, is defiled and unclean because the males of Judah married foreign women who by definition worshipped other deities, which was the downfall of Solomon also, and we saw how that went for Israel. Got it? So it's an idolatry thing, not a colour of the skin racist thing. He didn't want his people to fall back into idolatry. So now Ezra's conclusion was that the only possible solution for the hundreds, perhaps thousands, of marriages between pagan Gentiles and Jews that Yahuwah plainly said was a great affront, insult to him, was to send the foreign wives along with their children away. It was similar in principle and effect as to when Abraham had no choice but to send Hagar and her son Ishmael away. Ishmael was, of course, also Abraham's biological son, just as these children that would be sent away were the children of the Jewish fathers. Now multiply the pain and suffering of the Hagar situation 1,000-fold in the case of the Jews here. What else is the solution to an unauthorized marriage than to dissolve the union? And yet, at the same time, Yahuwah says, I hate divorce. So what's going on here? Ezra's going to tell them all to divorce, yet Yahuwah hates divorce. So how's this going to work? When I, Ezra, heard about this, the illegal marriages, I tore my robe and my coat, pulling the hair from my head and beard. Then I sat down, shocked and upset. Then everyone who respected Yahuwah's divine laws shook with fear. They were afraid because the Israelites who came back from captivity were not obedient and loyal to Yahuwah. I was shocked and upset and just sat there until the evening sacrifice and the people gathered around me. At the temple, with people surrounding him, Ezra sat there for hours in a state of mourning and grief over what he'd learned about the marriages between every strata of Jewish society and foreign pagans. It was as though he was paralyzed with shock and fear, unable to process the calamity. Understand that only a person well versed in Yahuwah's word and devoted to obedience to Yahuwah's commandments would even recognize that there was a problem, let alone the enormity of it. Most didn't even understand or think there was a problem. From an earthly, societal, economic viewpoint, there was nothing different on the day the bad news was received from the day before, or the year before, or the decade before. Goodness, even the priesthood had supported and indulged in these marriages to foreigners. There was no invading army, no pestilence, no destructive earthquake or political upheaval that had just happened. To the spiritually asleep, everything appeared perfectly normal. To the spiritually asleep, everything just appears normal. So why was Ezra rocking the boat so much? It took Ezra courageously going against the tide of Jewish society, from the lowest field worker to the highest religious leadership, to make them aware of Yahuwah's great rage against them, and that the anger would not cease until the situation was resolved. So then, when it was time for the evening sacrifice, I got myself up. I had made myself look shameful while I was sitting there. My robe and coat were torn, and I fell on my knees with my hands spread out to Yahuwah, my Elohim. And then I prayed this prayer: My Elohim, I am too ashamed and embarrassed to even look at you. I'm ashamed because our sins are higher than our heads. Our guilt has reached all the way up to the heavens. Do we talk to Yahuwah like this? Do we talk to Yahushua like this? Do we feel like this in our day? By the state of ourselves, what we've been, done, said, our families, everything we do, think, behave. Do we feel like this? Do we address Yahushua like this? Our guilt has reached all the way up to the heavens. We have been guilty of so many sins from the days of our ancestors until now. We sinned so our kings and priests were punished. Foreign kings attacked us and took our people away. They took away our wealth and made us ashamed. It is the same even today. Since Ezra was a teacher and also carried the king's authority, the prayer was meant to be both a plea to Yahuwah and instructional to the people as to the nature and gravity of what they had done. Ezra begins by confessing guilt, and he's not separating himself from everyone else, even though he wasn't the one who had taken a foreign wife, as far as we know. He's including himself with them. In other words, his prayer was on behalf of the assembly of Judah, and Ezra counted himself as among them. Therefore, he was guilty by association. So while as individuals, Ezra and many others of the exiles did not marry foreign women and did not sin against Yahuwah in that way, on the other hand, they were all members of the collective. They were all members of the collective called Judah, and so what befell one befell all. Should Yahuwah dish out judgment against Judah? So you can be having a personal relationship with Yahushua, but if Yahushua decides to dish out judgment on the nation, you're guilty by association. See that? Ezra continues, but now finally you have been kind to us. You have let a few of us escape captivity and come to live in this set-apart place again. Yahuwah, you gave us new life and relief from our slavery. Hasn't he done that? Yes, we were slaves, but you would not let us be slaves forever. You were kind to us. You made the kings of Persia be kind to us. Your temple was ruined, but you gave us new life so that we could build your new temple again. Yahuwah, you helped us build a wall to protect Judah and Jerusalem. There are and will be parts of the Torah law that Ezra and his people will not be able to reinstitute, not because it's technically undoable, but because they are in opposition to Persian law, and because the new Persian society will fight against some of these proposed changes, hammer and tong. And why are Judah and Ezra in this frustrating position that will not permit absolute purity of obedience to the divine laws, even if they try? Why are they in this situation? Because the personal sins of the Jews, as well as the iniquity of their fathers, have altered history, and the conditions they now live under won't allow for it. Does Yahuwah excuse it then? Was it then okay not to do the parts of the law that the Jews couldn't do because of the circumstances of their exile, and now a return to a messed up society and a new religion? Is that an excuse? Hardly. all that happens is that the sins and iniquities will continue to pile up and pile up higher and higher because they are observing all the divine laws. They aren't observing the divine laws because they can't, because they caused the conditions for this untenable situation by their sinning. And they can't fix it simply because they changed their minds. Truly the definition of a vicious circle, which is the same state we all live in today. Are the societies and laws and courts and everything out there basing it all on Scripture anymore? No. It's like a snowball effect. But as we know about law, the fruit of the Spirit, if we do those, we're higher, we're not subject to any of those laws. Those laws are easy compared to doing the fruits of the Spirit. Now, Yahuah, what can we say to you? We have stopped obeying you again. You used your servants, the prophets, to give these special commands to us. You said the land you're going to live in and own is a ruined land. It has been ruined and defiled by evil abominations the people living there have done. They have done very bad things in every place in this land. Just like today, isn't it? They've done very bad things in every place in this land. They have made this land filthy with their sins. So, Israelites, don't let your children marry their children. Don't join them. Don't want the things they have. Obey my command so that you will be strong and enjoy the good things of the land. Then you can keep this land and give it to your children. But did they? Remember, Ezra saw his journey from Babylon like a second Exodus experience. And he'd organized his group in the same way the original Exodus journey was, with priests, Levites, 12 groups of lay people, and so using instructions given to the Israelites from the first Exodus. Ezra says that the people were told that the reason Yahuah was giving them the land of Canaan for their own and expelling the current inhabitants is because the Canaanites' uncleanliness defiled the land. It was because of their disgusting, abominable practices that filled Canaan with their pagan filth from one end to the other that Yahuah wanted them out. So it wasn't because of the colour of their skin. It wasn't a racist thing. It was because of their behaviour and their idolatry. Don't intermix with these people. Don't have anything to do with them. Don't make any peace treaties with them. Therefore, Israel was certainly not to intermarry with them, whether it was Hebrew sons to pagan women or Hebrew daughters to pagan men. Even more, they were not to be commanded by Moses and John, not to make peace treaties. They were not to make peace treaties with these nations or help them to prosper in any way. Moses and Joshua commanded them not to do that. Yahuah wanted to get rid of them. And if they did as Yahuah commanded through the prophets, then Israel would live in a land and prosper. If we do as Yahushua commands through his word, then we will live in the land and prosper. We will prosper. Believe that? What has happened to us is our own fault. We have done evil things and we have much guilt. But you, our Elohim, have punished us much less than we should have been. We have done terrible sins, many terrible sins, and we should have been punished worse. And you have even let some of our people escape captivity. So we know that we must not break your commands. We must not marry those people. They have abominable behavior. Yahuah, if we continue to marry these bad people, we know you will destroy us. Then there would be no one from the Israelites left alive. Yahuah, Elohim of Israel, you are good, and you still have let some of us live. Yes, we are guilty, and because of our sin, not one of us should be allowed to stand in front of you. They were to avoid all relationship with the pagan foreigners of Canaan, and instead the Jews made the closest union, humanly and spiritually possible with them, the union of marriage. What closer union could you get to these people that you were told to stay away from? We married them. It simply doesn't get any worse than this, because this sin is the worst of the worst, and it gains the label of an abomination. Bottom line, be careful about the leadership and the collectives, fellowships, family, You choose to put yourself under because Yahuah holds you responsible for your choices. It doesn't matter whether that choice begins with your circle of friends or your family or a fellowship, community that you choose to live in, or the nation you find yourself in. Remember, Yahushua even said this. If anyone comes to me and does not hate or love less their father, mother, wife, children, brothers and sisters, yes, even their own life, they cannot be my disciple. So who comes first? He does. These illicit marriages among the returned exiles have gone on for a long time and they are still alive. But just because Yahuah hasn't killed them doesn't mean that they're not guilty. See the same thing happening out there today? Just because we may not see people, well, we are really, we're seeing people drop like flies, but it doesn't mean they're not guilty. Yahuah's watching everything. The people have been forewarned and prepared that something awful is about to happen soon because this situation of the illicit marriage unions cannot stand. And in our last chapter next week, we'll watch as Ezra decides that the only possible solution is to dissolve that which Yahuah finds abhorrent before him. No matter the societal disruption, no matter the immense and long-term heartache, and to some, in a certain sense, the unfairness of it, to many who are innocent products of these illicit unions, they must all come together and agree with the divine words of Yahuah their Elohim to gain his favor. What Ezra says from Yahushua's word, they must all come together and agree on. So, is it any different today? We must come together and agree and be in one mind about his word and what he's instructing us. What does it mean to be in one mind? What does it mean to agree? Let's have a look. This is what agree means in the original Hebrew language. To agree on a time and place, or to prepare, or to fix upon by agreement or appointment, to meet at a stated time, or to summon or to trial, to direct in a certain quarter or position, to engage for marriage, to agree, make an appointment, assemble yourselves, betroth, gather yourselves together or meet together. It's got a very dating, marriage, courtship type vibe to it, this word, doesn't it? Marriage is there a couple of times. Engaged, come together. It's very, very marriagey, isn't it? So let's see where it's going to go. When we put that Hebrew understanding there with scripture understanding, in Matthew 5 it says, "But I say to you, love your enemies, pray for those who persecute you." Love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. Anybody who's doing anything to you, even in your own home, even in your own business, even in your own community, society, day to day, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. And he said to him, "You shall love Yahuah your Elohim with all your heart, and with all your being, and with all your mind." Getting very love vibes here, aren't we? He's telling us to love. Again, if you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? That's easy. For even sinners love those who love them. But we are to love our enemies, aren't we? That's the challenge. By this, all men will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another. So what are they going to see to prove that we're true, that prove that we're following the right path? They're going to see love. If you love me, you will keep my commandments. Yeah? If you love me, you will keep my commandments. He who has my commandments and keeps them is the one who loves me. And he who loves me will be loved by my Father. And I will love him and will disclose myself to him. Just as the Father has loved me, I have loved you. So abide in my love. More love. Getting a feeling here about what he wants from us? In Romans 5, but Yahuah demonstrates his own love towards us in that while we were yet sinners, Yahushua died for us. He didn't die for us when we'd polished up our act, did he? He died for us way back. Let your love be without hypocrisy. Abhor, hate what is evil, and cling to what's good. Love does no wrong to a neighbour. Therefore, love is the fulfillment of the law. We're talking a lot about the law, haven't we? Ezra comes back as a scholar of the law, and he's shocked to get back to the temple, ready to praise and worship and offer his sacrifices, and realizes none of these guys are doing the law. None of these are doing the instructions that Moses laid out for the temple. So likewise, love does no wrong to a neighbour, therefore love is the fulfillment of the law. We must be observing Yahuwah's divine laws. If I speak with tongues of men and of angels but don't have love, I have become a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. So we can have all these gifts and talents and everything lying around and being active, but if we don't have love, it's a waste of time. And what is love? Love is patient. Love is kind. It's not jealous. Love does not brag. Love is not arrogant. You getting an understanding of what love is here? How we should be behaving? Love never fails. If there are gifts of prophecy, they will be done away with. If there are tongues, they will cease, languages. If there is knowledge, it will be done away with. Because what comes in its place? But now belief, hope, and love abide these three, but the greatest of these is love. Yeah? And we love because he first loved us. It's all because of him. He's the reason we're still breathing and functioning the way we are. Let's tie all this up together. Obviously, in summarizing the Hebrew word, which we did, had a very marriagey vibe, didn't it? Summarizing the Hebrew word and the scriptures, we can see in between the lines at the abstract meaning to the word agree. We see that to agree is like a marriage. To agree is like a marriage. Which, of course, brings us to our wedding vows, 10 commandments, which are all based on love. In other words, how we treat Yahuah and our fellow men. That's what the commandments are, aren't they? How to treat Yahuah, the first 4 or 5, and then how to treat one another. In the scriptures, there is plenty of instruction to do that. Question: why are those in the body of Yahushua not behaving according to the instruction, but instead they are wild and independent? Not coming together through the apostles' teachings, are they? The early assemblies entered into this same behavior and they lost the supernatural presence of Yahushua. They lost their lampstand. He warned them, don't do this or I'll take away your lampstand, and he did. They lost the supernatural presence of Yahushua, which is still not returned in its fullness because of this behavior. So there are people out there, preachers, teachers, pastors, rabbis, preaching and teaching, writing books, gathering people together, rallying people under banners and names and titles and labels. They do not have the supernatural presence of Yahushua. So they're just playing church, aren't they? Even though they may not agree with the word church or church and religion, whatever, they're still doing the same behavior, still following the same pattern of behavior. The bride today is supposed to be in agreement with the apostolic teachings, the teachings that Yahushua's disciples put out into the world. The apostolic teachings, they're supposed to be in agreement with them, enjoying the supernatural presence in their assemblies. This is not happening because there is conflicting ideas raging within the body, and love cannot raise its head above such behavior. Understand that? There can't be love when there's complete anarchy, chaos, disagreement. Yahushua wants us cleansed from this behavior so he can move in. And every one of us in the gifts He wants us cleansed from this behaviour so he can move in each and every one of us in the gifts he bestows. Unless we can agree on these issues, we cannot experience the supernatural in our homes, in our lives or fellowships. We have to agree. So please settle your arguments and agree on the apostolic teachings, not on your own knowledge. For unless we are moving in the supernatural, we're just playing church. If we're not having supernatural experiences in our day, seeing Yahuah move, oh, that was Yahuah there. That was Yahuah doing that. Yahuah said that to me, this, that. If we're not doing that, we're just playing church. Of course, we cannot approach the altar unless we're clean. This is how Yahuah wants his bride to behave, agreeing to his teachings. Is this how you live and behave? Is this how you live and behave? Do you think Yahuah wants us to come together and agree on how we should be behaving? On his words that he's instructed us? How many conversations and hours have we sat in this building? Discussions, conversations, sermons, all sorts of things going on in this room. Even dramas. How many have we gone through in this room to bring us to a place of agreement? Does everybody agree with the foundation of where we stand? The last 2 years of teaching we've had? Does everybody agree on it? Yeah? Then why don't we do it? Why don't we come together and be in like mind and do it and behave it? Why isn't there peace and harmony in our home if we're all in agreement? Does it show that we're in agreement? Well, it starts where? It starts here. If you agree with Yahuah's word, you don't allow certain thoughts in against anyone in the family. And if there's an issue or something unfair going on, you just address it. And you go through whatever conversations you go through. Isn't that what Scripture says? Yeah? Well, if somebody was to look into our home, does it look like we're in agreement or disagreement with Yahuah's word? Hey? Oh, well, who's it up to? It's up to us, isn't it? We know what the right thing to do is. Very rarely do any of us walk through our day going, I don't know if that's the right thing to do or not. Do you get stumped like that much in your day? I don't. The issue is not knowing what's right and wrong. The issue is doing it. Self-control. Doing it. Yeah? You walk through the house, you see this, you see that. The question generally isn't, should I do this? Should I do that? Should I pick this up? Should I throw that there? Should I do this? Should I do that? Should I say this? Should I say that? Generally, the issue isn't should I, it's can't be bothered. Can't be stuffed. Let someone else do it. No one really cares, do they? No one really cares. Does Yahuah care? Are we living our lives like Yahuah is watching? Are we living our lives? I mean, there's only 2 people here that are married, so we're a room full of single people. Is everybody living unto Yahuah? Knowing that he can see you every moment of the day? Not just when someone might be looking over your shoulder. Well, that's the task, guys, because otherwise, do we agree? Would we like someone to come into our home like EZRA, expecting, these guys love Yahuah. Oh, yeah, we're in like mind. I know Yahuah. They might come from somewhere down south or America or somewhere, come and visit us. Oh, yeah, Yahuah, yeah, we got something in common. And they come into our home. What did he find out? These guys don't know nothing about the law. These guys don't even do the command. They don't even know how to set up a bloody temple. Look at them doing their own thing. Do we want anybody to come in our home and think that about us? Well, then we need to pull our socks up. Yeah? We've been taught the right thing to do. If people don't agree, there's people in our home. We have a brother that doesn't come along anymore. You've got a brother that doesn't come along anymore. He doesn't agree. He does not agree with Yahushua. So, we wait. And Yahushua's speeding up everything. We won't have to wait long. Yeah? We wait. And love and speak out when we need to. All right? That's the message tonight, guys. Would you like to close the meeting for me, mate? Thanks, buddy.
Thank you, Yahushua, for being here tonight. And thank you for this amazing word that you've given us. And we just all want to be in agreement now and just do what you've been telling us so that we can be a better example for everyone and help other people. Yeah. And we just ask that you bless all of us this week and help us to stay strong in your word. And give us your strength and wisdom so we can firstly get ourselves and our behavior better and then help others as well. Yeah. And we're just so thankful that you're here and that we can talk to you always. Just love you so much. So good.
So good.
Bless everyone this week, Yahushua. Bless all our families and friends. We love you so much, Yahushua. Let us take this word to heart. Let us agree with your word and change. So be it. Thank you for joining us tonight, brothers and sisters. Have a safe and good week. Hallelujah.